Hey everyone, this is the post-show for the final episode of the season. So again, just a reminder, as of last week, if you have any questions for us, AMA-style questions about the show or about us or about life or about puzzles or about podcasting, you can email them in and we're going to try and answer them in a special episode during this season break. So if you send us an email to escapethispod@gmail.com and in the subject line include 2025 AMA, that's for Ask Me Anything, that'll be great. Hopefully we can get to all your questions. All right, let's get on with the thing that you're actually wanting to listen to. Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the 2 miniature escape rooms we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast.
Bill, you did it!
Hey, I did it!
No, you escaped from
I escaped from it. Danny, you did it.
We often start with...
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Danny, you did it.
Yeah, thanks. Now you've got to edit it so those two things are being said on top of each other.
It's perfectly fine.
All right.
How was that? Did you enjoy that? It was a weird... it was a very weird thing to do.
Look, let's go with... It's not my preferred
you don't,
style of doing
You don't like
things.
writing rooms in half an hour?
I like setting aside half an hour and saying, all right, let's power through. Let's get as much work done as I can. Knowing that at the end of that half an hour, that is it, that is the final product, is very upsetting to me. I think that what this really did was it emphasized what our different strengths are.
What do you mean?
You are like very good at performing and coming up with things quickly.
Sure.
Like fast ideas and being able to make them seem thorough fast is something that you've always been very good at.
Do you think my room seemed thorough?
It seemed like you had planned it beginning to end.
Oh, that's good. I think I had.
Yeah. You had multiple rooms.
I did have multiple rooms.
You had drawn puzzles that worked.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a puzzle. But yes, I did have a little bouncing off. Originally, I didn't want to have choice, and so I placed the stalagmites in certain places where if you hit that with a boat, it would force the boat to turn by catching one side of its hull. And then I realized there's no puzzle there. That's just make it go until it gets to the end. There needs to be a choice at to these points. So I added the goblin brother. And at that point, I was like, okay, I guess the brother is what he's looking for. Because all I had was goblin looking for something. And it's going to be at the lake. And then when I figured out the boat thing, I was like, maybe it's on the boat. And then when I needed someone to make choices, I was like, all right, I guess there's a person on the boat.
Nice. Whereas I tend to struggle with improvising and working quickly, and I like huddling quietly in a corner, taking a lot of time to plan things out properly, and then more specifically, script them properly.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the lack of script was funny.
That's brutal to me.
I don't think yours came out too poorly, given lack of script. I think you're still pretty good at coming... You say you're not good at improv, but you're good at knowing what words should go there. And so you still had a fair description.
Yeah, but mine was definitely falling apart at the seams without proper time to actually consider whether they worked or not. Which, look, I won't say it's normal for my first drafts of puzzles, but it's starting to not surprise me when it happens. When I've done a draft and go, great, I've got all the puzzles for this room, it's all sorted, just got to do the typing. And then I get to the typing part and I start writing the explanation for the room and go, what? What?
It was very fun. I liked the little the bat part of the lifts, but it's very funny. It got to the same point that I had with a lot of mine, which was I would come up with a thing and then at the end be like, this isn't really a puzzle. It's more of just a process. Although at least that required me to think loudness of bats would relate to how many bats can fit in a hole.
Yeah,
to kind of figure out what the key might be.
Generally, that was another thing. That's one of the last, because puzzles are the last thing I come up with. That was definitely where I struggle. I said, I want an idea for it. Is it going to end up being a puzzle? Who knows? And the same thing could be said, like the fact that my big rock, not necessary at all.
No, and then also that puzzle kind of broke a little bit with the fours reflecting down.
No, the fours were beautiful. It was just the five. It was just the five that struggled.
The fours were not beautiful. They were H's, but the top right and the bottom right were missing. That's not a 4.
I mean, that's a 4 to me. Oh, let's draw a 4.
Draw a 4, and if that looks like an H with the top and bottom right missing,
Okay, that's a normal 4. You would argue.
yeah,
that
I'd argue that's a
4.
normal 4.
So all I have done is extend that.
Yeah,
That's it.
It's not quite a 4. when you draw the extra line really faintly, Danny, it does look like it's not very prominent.
If I could have made the 5, and even if it were a slightly ugly 5, which the best I can think of is, well, ending up looking sort of like that, which isn't really
Which is
an
not
ugly
a 5.
5.
No one would ever look at that and think it's a 5.
In Japanese, it's closer.
In Japanese, that says king.
Which is a little bit closer to 5. Just a little bit.
Yeah, it is interesting because like the 3 has like vertical reflection, and I don't know if many other 8s do, zeros do, 1s do.
Yeah, I was struggling. I also rearranged my word order in my notes and then wrote over those notes, so I forgot that I had done that. So as you can see here, I tried to move the word tomb to the top of my notes, but then I wrote the other letters at the top of that, so it doesn't...
No, that's the same thing.
Yeah, my notes are not good.
Yeah, it is interesting. So my big thing as I was going through it, designing wise, was so first of all, I think we were let's think about the general content, the first step, right? Yeah, so we pulled a random room tile from Betrayal at the House on the Hill. I think we were both expecting a room. Yeah, something with like furniture and in a house. And the fact that we got cave is hilarious.
I was so worried about getting just, blank corridors and things like that. Caves
No
are
one
not
bought a
much
cave.
better.
There's underground lake in there as well. We should have avoided the basement.
We both did water.
We both did water.
We both did skeletons and water.
And gems.
I suppose.
And a desire to escape.
That took me a while trying to figure out what was my goal here. Is it just to get out? Is that okay? I haven't done that in a while. And then, that's where it ended up pretty much.
Yeah, I had this thing of like, I started with the entrance and I was like, what do you need? We need light. So I've written get light. 2, let's put in a maze and let's need to get a map. And then when I drew that, I went, that's a hobgoblin, I guess. Let's just make it a hobgoblin. And then I went, oh, wait, you need a goal. And I just went, you're a little skeleton man. Done. And so I embraced the fantasy fairly quickly. I had a whole extra thing of needing to get a code as well. I wanted the idea of another puzzle, like, maybe you get a code in the final room to unlock something, and then the final thing you need right at the end is this acid bit to go back and get acid. I liked early on, I went, we'll do an XYZ on a list, and we'll take the Y. That's a classic escape room thing. It was a classic Dani escape room thing, right? Like, list a few things, have something in the middle be the important one, and make sure people note that. And you did that very well. You were like, hey, you said acid earlier, let me go grab that acid in my big pot. I didn't think about how to transport the acid. I was just like, you need acid. It did not occur to me that you would need a vessel for transporting acid. So thank you so much, Dungeon Meshy, for making me put in a big wok. Because the wok was not written down.
Not in your plans at all?
No, I forgot about how to transport acid.
God.
I was like, you just need acid, that'll be fine. I forgot that you would probably need a vessel for acid transportation.
Hilarious. And also I used the wok for fire, which wasn't your plan
I
either.
wanted it to be a stick with a wizard robe at the end, dipped in the oil.
Totally fair. Slightly more complex.
Because it was literally just, I just started, so for me, the way I made it is I wrote those as things, get light, get map, get code, get acid. And I wrote them in order of like what you would need to achieve that. So I went like, get light, you need a stick. And I went, old wizard staff. Great, I'll add a wizard corpse. Rag, the wizard's robe. And then I was like, you need oil. Okay, cool. Let's do the Dungeon Meshy thing. Let's add in a dwarf with cooking supplies. So you get cooking oil. And then way later I came back and went, wait, you need to be able to start this fire. I don't have anywhere to start a fire. So I added a knight with a sword and like gave the dwarf flint. And I was like, great, you can do that.
Awesome.
But originally that was not part of it. And then get map. I just said lake puzzle. It'll involve the lake. I'll come up with a puzzle. Can't swim. You need to get across the lake maybe. Boat with a sail in the middle of the lake. I think originally I thought you get the boat to you and then you can sail it across. And then, I did mushrooms nearby, shoot air.
That was a wild idea.
I thought push it east until it hits a stalagmite and then it comes towards you. I was like, that's not a puzzle. And then I wrote hobgoblin friend in boat with a stick to choose direction so that I can make it a puzzle. To make that puzzle for you, I just drew the correct path and then just added random stuff where you might want to make a decision that would lead to a bad place.
That's fair, but very easily broken.
Mm.
So it's very nice that it worked.
Yeah, in
'Cause
this
it's
case,
very easy to accidentally add a random thing that makes the whole thing fall apart.
yeah, in this case, it seemed to work pretty well.
Or
I mean, it's
usually
quite easy.
accidentally give you 8 paths to the
Y-
end.
yes,
That's
true.
the problem.
And then yeah, I just like I needed to make a list. I had so many. I don't know if you were the same, but I had so many moments.
Your map has a lot more little paths.
That's the maze.
Just in case I decided to go in unprepared?
No, I drew
or-
it before I came up with what the solution would
okay.
be, which is just get a map and go through.
Right.
I drew a little maze, and I was like, now I get a little maze. Oh wait, Danny won't need to do the maze because for a second in my head, I don't even think I said it out loud during the planning audio. But I think in my head I was like, oh, maybe you would take certain paths and have to actually memorize.
Is the correct path just left?
Yeah, just left twice. It's a very easy maze. But yeah, a lot of it was just like I don't have many notes, as you can see.
Now, you haven't done many room designs.
I've done one other mini room design.
Yeah, how do you have any recollection of how the two processes compared?
Well, this one I had less time and I had to do it
Really?
live.
Ah.
So that was a lot harder. But honestly, so I think the big thing for me that was a big key part of this, but I think in general, I don't mind it as a general principle for design, which is a little bit first thought, best thought.
Oof. Okay.
Just pick a thing and then start going with it. And if there's a problem later, you can change it. But if you sit there too long being like, what type of thing could go here? I think once you have one idea, it's probably pretty good. That's why you had it. So stick with it and see what happens.
That has variable success.
Oh, yeah.
For me.
I'm sure. Sometimes the ideas are real bad. And look, I did cut out ideas. Like I cut out this code idea because I didn't have time to design it. But I didn't want to waste time getting stuck on, oh, I could do this or I could. I was like, let's just do it and move on and then I'll come back later if it doesn't work.
My starting point was very much rising water because I started with the rescuers and that's the scary part of the rescuers to me.
Fair. Good example for both of us. Get inspiration from other media. It really helps you just continue on through.
Definitely.
It's why, interestingly enough, using cliched topics can help boost your creativity.
Yeah. Good point.
We should remember that for when we do a talk at a conference soon.
Right. So I started out, the first thing that I drew, I'm pretty sure, was the lift going down. And then I had the bats in there. My issues that I encountered were the bats gave me some struggle. I definitely knew that I wanted you to use this light to stun the bats and have them do something.
Yeah, a lot of a thing might happen there. Let's figure out later what that is.
Mine is not a magic cave, so the bats having something to do with a puzzle solution was a big challenge. That was where I sat stumbling for a very long time.
And a really great implementation. Like, what do bats do? They roost.
In general,
is that usable?
I thought I ended up in an okay place, but then I had to go, all right, how do I explain what I mean by these gears? Whatever. It's a weird lift.
I also went, I'll just go. I get Danny's trying to make me do a puzzle. I'm not going to try and picture how this makes any sense because it doesn't. Because I'm just picturing that above the lift, there's like a shaft and a giant crane hand that is going into each of these holes and poking it. Because I'm like moving left, right, up and down. Like, what is moving left, right, up and down? You know, there's not a big highlighted box selecting each gear. I don't know.
A bunch of electrical wires and stuff inside them.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense, but I moved on.
My other thing was initially a bunch of small rocks that I had. They didn't have writing or anything on them. I wanted something about skimming them on the rising water to be interesting.
Oh, that would have been fun.
But again,
I could have done that in my lake room.
That's a natural process, and I couldn't think. I don't know enough about lake physics to know what that would imply about like, different parts of the room.
Or like different qualities of rock based on how often they skip on the top of the lake. It's not really
I didn't know what
sense.
to do with that, so that ended up being completely abandoned. But the very first thing that I really tried to do was, you can see in my notes, I just wrote hat kinetically powered. And I went, all right, how do I get that across? What is a puzzle that I can use to get that across
Star jumps.
in the dark?
Yeah, you gotta feel it.
So it can't be a word puzzle or anything like that, really.
Again, that's a classic little escape room task, though, of you being like, here, I'm going to describe the shape.
Fun.
And I was like, I know what you're making me draw.
I thought that was fun.
I loved that. That was a really fun element.
And I think that's my shining light of my room.
I think it was great.
Beyond that, yeah, all of the rest ended up being a bit of a struggle. And then I wrote down notes to myself at the end to make sure that I remembered at least what order I intended things to happen, which just says, go down lift all dark, get hat on, find ominous book, scare bats, try lift collapses, get water. talk about that later. Reflection plus bucket to Skelly gets.
Reflection
Yeah,
plus
makes
bucket to
sense.
Skelly gets.
Yep. And small rocks code.
Nice.
Now, I realized some portion of the way through that, okay, what could the bats do? Maybe like they fly off. Maybe there's some cave system that they fly off and there'll be a left, right, follow, or whatever.
Yeah,
And
you're
I
going
went,
to follow the bats or something.
this path can't be extensive, otherwise the rising water has no threat to it.
Ah, you're right.
Wait a second, there's a lift shaft. This rising water has no threat to it.
Yeah, you have to get rid of that lift.
So I had to explode the lift
I
shaft.
love it. But that's great. That's nice. I had a big play. So I was saying before I wanted a final puzzle, but I just took too long designing the puzzles that I had because I needed to do this picture of a boat in water puzzle. And I was trying to think of I wanted a word puzzle at the end. Maybe you need to get the name of the necromancer who put you in this cave. And I wanted to put a creature near the exit or a color-based thing. And I was just I had those vague ideas. Maybe some kind of creature, maybe some kind of wordplay, maybe some kind of color-based thing. And in my head, and I say this in the recording for people who are on the Patreon, I had a moment of I've just got yellow, yell. Oh, that's a thing.
I get that.
There's something there, but no, that's nothing. I can't. This is ogre. What about green? Yellow, green, ogre. Ogre? There's nothing. There's something that I want to do there, but I just did not have time to come up with it. And it would have been something that just then is followed up by needing the acid anyway, so I didn't mind it. But I think it would have been nice because I think having a break in gameplay between seeing the acid and using the acid makes it more of a puzzle. It's one of those, the longer you leave that pause, the more of a puzzle it becomes purely by elapsing time. You see three things, one of them's acid, now there's a lock in front of you that needs acid. That's not much of a puzzle, which is what it ended up being. But the idea of, you see three things, one of them's acid. Let's put that aside for now. By the way, here's a new puzzle, here's a new gameplay element. And then 20, 30 minutes later being hey, something needs to be melted. You're wait a minute, wasn't there acid? Accomplishment.
I agree. That was one of the things that having to do it in such a short span of time limited your idea to do more, not expansive puzzles, but more puzzles that have been setting up or building up for a while now.
Exactly.
This one's been a long time coming. No, a lot of things were a lot more, this is just self-contained.
Really, what I should have done is somehow involved needing an orb or a piece of treasure at the end, so that you come all the way back to gold.
I was very surprised that Jerry didn't come back.
You know the only reason I had Jerry there?
Yeah.
I went, first thing you need is light.
Yeah.
But then I went, yeah, but I want you to have enough light to see the things that are your options. You should have a limited light. So then, so I need a source of light in the treasure. Oh, great, solved it. And then 10 minutes later I went, yeah, but why couldn't you just pick that up and walk around with it? Okay, why is that piece of light tethered to the treasure? Oh, it's just a anglerfish mimic treasure thing. It can't be taken away. It's like a guy. He's hey, get out of here. It was literally just me being I need a problem solve. I need a source of light. Oh, wait, that's too movable. How do I stick it in place?
I also really had the problem of I wanted something else to be in with the skeleton. So I figured, maybe once the rising, you got to take some water over to it and something will float up. And I went, wait, do bones float? Is there something here I want with that?
Bones might float.
I mean, but no, legitimately, and I've said this on both the episode and the playtest now, wouldn't the ocean just be bones?
Do bones float? Bones can sink and float.
What? Well, I mean...
Do human bones float in water? No.
Yeah.
Bone and muscle are both more dense than water.
Yeah. That's, surely.
Do skeletons ever float? Nope. All right.
Can you think of how cool and terrifying the ocean would be? I hope we hit that point. Bones where all bones in the world have just degraded just enough on the inside that they now float.
Danny.
And think about the ocean. Just think what that would do to the ocean.
It'd be covered in bones.
That's cool.
Danny, you want that to happen? You hope we hit the point where the surface of the ocean is just a mat of bones.
I want the
blocking light out, so all the fish and phytoplankton and algae all die from lack of sunlight because of the bone canvas. The bone canvas.
I want a movie called The Bone Canvas.
No, is canvas what I want? No, what's the top of a rainforest?
Canopy.
Canopy, the bone canopy. That's what it is.
That's okay.
The bone canopy.
I want that movie.
Yeah.
It's great.
Canopy.
It's better than Waterworld.
What about
I'm not going to call it Bone World.
What about Bone Canapé? Just a little bone to snack on. When we don't have a guest, Danny, this gets too weird. We're talking about bone canapes.
And so then I was going, all right, well, why can't you just reach into it? And again, I super hand waved that of just saying, you can't.
It's too deep.
It's there's some way you can't get it. And I was going, maybe it's like trapped inside the skull and it's small enough that it can fit out an eye hole, but the eye holes are small enough that your fingers can't get in. Maybe it's not a human skull. Wait a second, it's got a diary. I think it's got to be human.
Also, how do they get the bones in there if I can't get in deep enough to get to the bottom? Because presumably a whole skeleton could fit in through the slot that I'm looking in. Why don't I could just jump in?
Nah.
I could just jump in.
Nah.
That's creamed over.
Exactly. Who knows how long it's been here.
That's fair. But no, I had a lot of fun. Look, it's silly, but I had a lot of fun.
Yes,
the recording was stressful because the addition of also I need to say this out loud for someone to listen to was
mine's
wild.
going to be so bad. I'm sorry to everybody.
That's all right. It's bonus content.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be good.
You, though, didn't feel like when I encountered you afterwards, you didn't feel like the time limit stressed you out, did it? And were you just putting on
it didn't stress
an
me
intimidating
out.
face? You finished early.
Yeah, well, it's because I knew I had like a minute or two left, and I went, there's not time to do the new thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
Because all I wanted to do was create a new puzzle, and I was like, it's going to be a waste of time for me to spend the last 2 minutes trying to think because I'm not going to get there, and then I'll just be disappointed to have half a puzzle.
Yeah,
I called it.
Ended up, I wouldn't say in the same position, but I do remember feeling that. Like, I did do a mini countdown at the end.
I wouldn't say the time limit stressed me out, but it definitely didn't produce the best work.
At the beginning, I felt so fine, and then as soon as I saw 14 minutes left, I started to panic. That was the exact moment.
I was the opposite. I started super stressed, and I looked up assuming that I would have had like 10 minutes to go, and I was 5 minutes in. And I went, I got 25 minutes to go? I can do what I've done 5 times over? I've already come up with all the beats. I've drawn a map. I've given a character and a story. I'm done, and I'm 5 minutes in. I was the opposite, so I lost all my stress about 5 minutes
brutal.
in.
At the start, like 2-3 minutes in, and I said, all right, so now I need a story. All right, let's sit and think
You didn't just think of Skeleton Man trying to get out of a cave?
Look, I essentially thought of what I had pretty quickly and then went, I don't really like that. Oh, well, no time to workshop that now.
Yeah, first thought, best thought, Danny. We've got half an hour. You got to move on.
But it would do. I'm not going to be using this to replace my current writing
not going to become your new brainstorming
soon.
method for rooms?
Certainly not my room running methods.
What about, though, getting inspiration by picking a random card from Betrayal at House on the Hill? No, it's not that helpful. You could do the same thing by just thinking of a room right now.
Yeah, I could do that. It's fine. I feel like
I'll give you one right now. I've just come up with it. It just entered my head. It's not a room from that that game, but it's the kind of thing that would be in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Broken staircase.
Okay.
That's your pit. Let's spend the next half hour doing another one
I've used
now.
Staircases before. I can work with that. But having that as here's an element that must be in your next room. I think I could have some fun with that. That could be a next one to work with. This like
Rhodium.
like in MasterChef. This must be the hero of your room.
I think hero of your room is fun.
That could be a good next one. But in general, I think that could be a good process for people who like just need that push to get going and like feel like writer's block is a big hindrance that means they're never going to get something done, so they just need that sort of push. That's not the way that I work. If something feels like I feel like, no, I actually can just sit around and wait for inspiration to strike a lot of the time. Sometimes it's harder than others.
I talked about that as well, that I can't do that. I can only progress with a creative thought if I'm sitting with a notebook physically writing out sentences or talking it through. I cannot... Like, ideas will never come to me, and I can't think of something in the background of my life and have it progress creatively. It just does not happen, which is why I went first in the half-hour designs, because I knew that once I was done, I was not going to be able to add to it by the time I ran the room.
As long as it's clear enough I don't really mind that. It can be hard to remember all of the things that are at your options when the book's not in front of you. But even when a book is in front of me, like I just wrote hat kinetically powered, and if I just stare at those words for a while, eventually something will come about what
Yeah.
to do with them. But yeah, typically I can wait. If I just pick a room out of Betrayal and say, all right, I'm going to write in this room, it might suddenly go, that's not really what I was vibing at the moment, which was pretty much what the cave was.
Oh,
so it made it hard to
cave.
write. So I would normally say,
Poor
yeah,
cave.
nah, let's go to the next tile. Let's find which one is going to work for me right now.
Yeah.
And I can wait for the inspiration to hit, and I can reject an idea that's not quite working. Sometimes I can push through. Occasionally I have to push through, but I think I know when I have hit that point, when there is just okay, no, this is just something inside you. You've just got to push it. You just got to dig at it a little bit. I think
mean,
I've been doing this for long enough that I can tell at that point.
You've been writing these for 8 years, and you've been writing for ever.
Yeah.
You have an understanding of your own creative process. I think that's a very helpful thing when you're creating, and a really difficult thing when you start out, because I don't think you can know it until you start doing it. Like, it took me until quite recently to figure this out about myself, because I didn't create stuff anywhere even a millionth as often as you did. So it took me a while to be like, oh wait, no. The biggest example of a creative person working in my life, I need to ignore that because that's not how I would be able to work creatively.
Yeah, apparently the way that I work is not how people work typically.
This happens a lot with when we were doing Golden Idol, when we were working on Rise of the Golden Idol, it came up a lot that I could get a lot out in a brainstorm session.
Yeah.
So when we
like
had three
I said,
people talking in a room.
You are great at performative stuff and making things feel like complete ideas quickly on the
But
spot.
the thing that I think is worth pointing out is that, like, you would talk about, like, you and also Will, who designed a lot of the Golden Idol stuff as well, who's fantastic, that the two of you had a more like, I have to sit by myself, I have to figure this out. And I could, in a meeting, come up and be like, we're having a meeting, what about this, what about this, what about this, take this, move this idea. But the thing is, that's the only time I can do that. Like, I can't then go away and think about I work. It's not like I can work in a brainstormy public setting like that as well. It's like, no, that is my best forum for working, where I can talk it through live with a person, going quickly and high energy, and do that. And then if I leave, I'm just like, I'm not going to come.
Imagine the storm you could have made in the corporate world.
Oh, I know. But I would come back and it's like, oh, it's been a week since the last brainstorm. In that brainstorm, I came up with this huge amount of stuff. In the week since, you have come up with a huge amount of stuff, and I have added nothing to the idea. New brainstorm meeting, let's go. And that's the only way I could work. And it's like, okay, cool. It's not just being better at that compared to, it's like, no, we're in completely different modes of coming up with these creative ideas. And now often when I need to think through an idea, when I'm writing a Solve This Murder, for example, I would do it like a live brainstorm with myself. I'll sit and I'll just...
Not even always with yourself. Sometimes you've just started Discord calls with other people, just not even talking about the ideas, but just to sort of simulate the environment.
But it's also why often, and I think I've talked about this on some autopsies, when you look at my notes for Solve This Murder, like my notebook where I'm coming up with the ideas, they're written in a super conversational way.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be like, dot point. All right, so what are we thinking here? We're thinking like there's two guys in a room, maybe one of them did the murder, next dot point. Yeah, but that doesn't really make a huge amount of sense because, like, I don't know, why would you do that? Like, that's whoever's dead did it or didn't do it and whoever's alive did it. Okay, so let's expand that out. And, like, that's how my notes are written, conversationally with myself, because I'm basically just having to do that. And that's when I can make progress. It's very interesting. Yeah. So actually maybe having a recording for that half hour made all the difference. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to do it in silence. Or maybe it would have sounded exactly the same if I hadn't been recording myself.
So what I gave for this could be, if you decide, because you've been floating the idea of writing your own rooms, and I've been saying, no, don't do that, because then you can do the whole show on your own.
You can start editing.
Yeah, but I don't know how to.
You can organize the guests.
Writing has no barrier to entry. The other stuff has signitent barrier to entry.
You can host it. Do the intro right now. You do the intro, right? Pretend it's a new episode of Escape This Podcast. Go.
Hello?
That's not how you do it.
Oh, no. I'm Dani.
No.
No,
we don't introduce ourselves. No one knows our names.
Yeah, this is terrible. What a mess. But it seems like, should that ever come up, if I'm having a horrible nervous breakdown and need you to take over for 1 week, it'll take you half an hour to do so.
Yeah, I'll just do that. Let's do a half-hour session. Oh, no. No. No.
You're not going to make this a regular gig?
Maybe I should do some more. Maybe I should do some next year. Probably not the rest of this season, because we know what's happening for the rest of this season, and I don't need to write anything.
Next season.
For next season. You're right. This is the final episode of this season, by the way. I hope
Not that there'll be a pause. There'll be bonus episodes and stuff.
There'll be a pause.
Maybe? Really?
Of real episodes,
Oh, yeah,
sure.
real episodes.
But yeah, maybe next year I'll write some.
This was scary, this experience.
Fair enough. But I think they both came out really well. I had a lot of fun both playing them and writing them.
Yeah, it was fine. I think for where my notes are typically at after at that sort of point, it wasn't too bad. But it's not going to come across very well on air for me because I do a lot of refining and just writing and scripting for myself.
It's going against
and
things that are your
is what
strengths.
makes me comfortable. Yes,
100%. Yeah, you should never design this way.
No.
But I don't think what you came up with was in any way bad. I think it was great. It was good fun. I still enjoyed doing it. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. Let us know. Let us know how you felt about it. Unless you felt bad about it, in which case, don't tell me. Or do. I don't know. Whatever you want. It's not going to be a regular thing. It's not like it's going to replace the show. It was just a fun special for the end of the season. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Dani, for writing and running a room.
Thank you.
Running and playing. Writing and playing a room.
Yeah, had some fun characters.
They were dumb. They were dumb little goobers. No one likes them. Next time I'll have a serious character. It's not silly at all. It'll be like...
Yeah, we didn't really have...
Hey,
we didn't have any present antagonists. That would have been too much, I guess.
Yeah, there's too much. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you so much for people who are supporting the show. Everybody can support the show, not even with money, by just telling people about it. Spread the word online. Sometimes people look at our guest list and they think we're a lot more popular than we are. We're not. We need more listeners. Please help. Get more listeners in. We're not doing well enough. We're doing well enough, but we're not doing well enough. Please. We need thousands more. And we don't have them. So please go and get us some new listeners by telling a friend, telling a person in your life, sharing it, posting about it, getting someone to downloading it onto someone's phone and be like, listen to this. Get on your phone and call like other podcasters and be like, hey, Roman, it's your cousin, Jonathan Mars. You know that new podcast you've been looking for? Well, listen to this, and then play it into the phone.
So then he'll take it and we won't get credit?
No, he'll just like it.
Oh.
And he'll talk about it on, he'll talk about the 99% invisible design of escape rooms and just play clips of our show.
Yeah, I think that's how that movie went.
So yeah, do that. But also you can support us on Patreon. Anybody who signs up for any level can appear as an NPC in one of our rooms. Not this one. There was not time to check the Patreon. That would have taken half an hour. There's also bonus audio. All the $5 donors get weekly audio episodes, including the behind-the-scenes episodes of Escape This Podcast. So they'll be able to hear us design this room live. I hope it's listenable. There's also bonus stuff for our $10 donors. There's monthly videos. And I think with the start of the next season, a new podcast specifically for the $10 donors.
Fingers crossed.
I believe that will come out.
Yay.
I can even say, I'm going to say what it is.
Yeah, I think you might have already.
Maybe I already had it, but as of next season, our $10 donors will also have access to a new podcast series, Charmed, I'm Sure, where Dani and I do a rewatch of the 1997 show Charmed. It's so much fun. We love Charmed. And it's just a fun show for you to listen to while we break down witches and warlocks and we rant about internal logical consistency and enjoy sisterly bonding. It's great. So you can that'll be coming out with the start of the next season for $10 donors. Probably
their sisterly bonding, not our sisterly bonding.
Well, ours as well. For people who don't know, we're sisters. Married sisters. It's weird. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff for other donors. So thank you so much for everybody who supports us on Patreon. Some people look at our guest list and think we have a huge Patreon, but we don't. We need more. Thousands more. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful next few weeks. And we'll be back with a new season start of August.
Something like that.
Start of August. Thanks, everybody. Bye.